And welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, here with you live today, the Tuesday after the Super Bowl, as we officially really have now turned our sights to the NFL offseason. We've been doing it for a little bit here in Philly, but now the entire season is behind us. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, my friend?
New offensive line coach. Happy new offensive line coach day. I don't know how many people are going to be happy about it, but because of Jeff Stoutland's reputation, but the guy tasked with replacing him is going to be Chris Kuper. Chris Kuper, good player back in the day.
He was. He started in, I think, like 79 of 90 games or something. So
Yeah.
he definitely was a good player to start that many games. But, John, we will get into that. That's obviously the first piece of news that we'll hit on. I got plenty of great topics today. I want to start here, though, John, with Chris Kuper, because I think it's easy as an Eagle fan and even a reporter like yourself of the Eagles to compare to Jeff Stoutland. Obviously, Jeff Stoutland is a Hall of Fame caliber position coach. If you take Jeff Stoutland out of the picture, is this a good hire? And what I mean by that is if we didn't have Jeff Stoutland and we were like a regular team with O-line coaches, would we be happy about this hire? He doesn't really have a whole lot of feathers in the cap there, John.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you look at it. He was in a position where it's just like here. So, they want to blame the head. They want to blame the coach for their offensive line issues. And it's not unique in any city. That's what happens. And they've struggled on the offensive line for a number of years, especially on the interior. They've struggled in the running game. Tons of injuries last year, personnel problems. It depends how you look at it. But where he's coming off and the fact that his contract expired and they had no interest in bringing him back, he was scapegoated there for their issues. So talk about scapegoating here. So
if you're going to just scapegoat, or was he?
Oh yeah, no question, he was a scapegoat. I mean, you go out and you spend a lot of money on a really good center, and he's got 3 concussions and barely plays. You spend a lot of money on a right guard who doesn't play that well. Maybe that is on him. So a lot of injuries in the other. Donovan Jackson was a first round pick who did a nice job, but was hurt missed 4 or 5 games. Injuries are something obviously you can't control, as you saw it kind of derail the Eagles this year on the offensive line. But I mean, on paper, it's not going to look good because the running game wasn't good in Minnesota. And some of the issues I just talked about, the fact that they wanted to move on from him. Now, that doesn't mean he's a bad coach, but that's how you're judged in this league. So it doesn't differ in Minnesota than it does here. And when something doesn't succeed, the coaches are going to be blamed more than the players. I blame the players more than the coaches. Pretty consistent with that. But yeah, I mean, it's anybody's going to be difficult coming into this situation, but the Eagles struggled, at least against their standard, this past season with one guy who's regarded as one of the best offensive and has been able to, there's very few guys. Vic has done it. Stout has done it. There's very few guys that can burst through that line that I just talked about. Typically, I would say 90% of the time, the offensive coach is going to get blamed or the defensive coach is going to get blamed. There's a few. And Stoutland was able to burst through that, and Vic is able to go through that where they get the benefit of the doubt. Very few people do in coaching. He's obviously in a different category as all the new coaches are. So he'll be judged, and he should be judged on his merit. But when you look at it compared to the resumes, it's not going to look good. But how was it ever going to look good? They want to change philosophies. And he has a history in the wide zone stretch stuff that goes all the way back to Alex Gibbs. And he runs that type of scheme, and that's what they want to run. And Stout doesn't want to run it. I mean, that's what this all comes down to.
Yeah.
The question is why do you want to run it? That's the question. And that to me is a bigger problem. That's NFL wide. Look, Greg Allman is a good reporter down in Tampa, covers the Bucs, and he had I just saw when I got up this morning. 12 coaches are now gone from Todd Bowles' 2025 staff in Tampa Bay.
Oh my goodness.
12. It's like I don't understand how these teams operate. So now you're going to run it back, and I'm bringing this up for a couple of reasons. One, because they've essentially moved on from most of the staff. And two, I think you take the emotion out of it when you look at how other teams do it. So now they're going to come back in 2026 with Todd Bowles, a veteran coach who built up trust with some of these people. Maybe not all of them because he's had such turnover at offensive coordinator, but certainly a lot of them. And then you're going to go with a bunch of new guys and say, go out there and do it and improve. It doesn't make any sense on any level. Can somebody tell me how it makes sense? But that's how they do it. That's how they do it in the NFL. It's not just the Eagles.
I'm with you. I mean, that to me is crazy, but it is what it is. John, Chris Kuper's hired. For those who don't know, he's 43 years old. All right, from Anchorage, Alaska, played his college ball at North Dakota. Not that matters all that much. He did have an 8-year playing career as a 5th-round draft pick to Denver. Started 79 and 90 games. How about that, folks? And his last 2 seasons, he blocked for Peyton Manning. So that's kind of the rundown on him as a person. He's coached the Vikings O-line for the last 4 years, from 22 to 2026. And then this year he was quietly let go. So kind of fired from that staff. And they're bringing in a new guy over there in Minnesota. John, how much of a concern is it that he was let go? I know you called him a scapegoat, but, I think this is a little bit of an uphill battle here right now in Philly to be the O-line coach here. I know we got great players, but there's a lot of question marks about a lot of those great players. And I think this team needs a good O-line coach to kind of get the best out of them. And Chris Kuper coming off of firing, I know you called it a scapegoat. How much concern lies with that part of this hiring?
Well, he didn't get fired. His contract expired. So,
Oh, I thought you said yesterday his contract didn't expire. He got fired.
Well, I may have, but if I did, I was incorrect. So his contract got expired. It was his 4th year, so 2 and 2.
Okay.
So it expired, but they didn't want to bring him back.
Right. So it wasn't a firing, but it was
exactly
type of thing. Okay.
Exactly. So, it's, potato, yada, yada. They didn't want him back. But his contract expired. So it's easy to frame it, to say, well, it's not that bad, but it is what it is. And they were ineffective. And the biggest issue from people I'm told there is, look, they put a lot of draft assets into the offensive line because they've been struggling to fix their offensive line for years. They used a 1st-round pick on Garrett Bradbury. He underperforms, especially compared a lot of people, he had a lot of movement skills for what they run, the Alex Gibbs Shanahan type stuff, the stretch stuff. A lot of people compared him to Kelsey. That's how athletic he is. He wasn't Jason Kelsey, to put it mildly, but they finally give up on him. He goes to New England this year, didn't have a great Super Bowl, but he was in the Super Bowl and he played better than he played in Minnesota.
Right.
So they drafted a kid in the 2nd round, Ed Ingram from LSU, to be a guard. Dismal. PFF rankings every year in Minnesota, bottom 5, just terrible, just abysmal. He goes to Houston. It's pretty good. And they're obviously a playoff team. And then if you go back even further, they used the second round pick on Ezra Cleveland. Now, some of these were before Chris got there, so he's not responsible for the draft. And not that he would be anyway, offensive line coach. And again, he leaves. They trade him because he underachieves to what they expected. And he's better in Jacksonville when he leaves. That to me is what I was told that stood out, and the reason they didn't want to bring him back. Similar to, why they fired their GM, because he made such a horrible evaluation at the quarterback position. But in the case of Chris, that's 3 high-level prospects,
right,
that didn't improve, or supposedly high-level prospects. And the bottom line is now you have evidence of them on the other side playing better. That to me is the biggest concern when I look at Chris Kuper. But maybe they're just not that good. They weren't great. They just were like average, which was a lot better than they were in Minnesota. So also, if you look at their running game over the last 4 years, 3 of the 4 years they were near the bottom of the league. It's like, what are we doing here? Now, I don't think that Jeff Stoutland leaving had anything to do with anything other than they're changing schemes, and he's not on board with that. But the bigger question to me isn't about Chris Kuper or Jeff Stoutland. It's about, why are you changing? Why? Now the Eagles obviously have a better idea and a better they understand where they're going personnel wise. That the people they have, the legendary people they have, were legendary under the Stoutland scheme. Under the Stoutland, his sort of Alex Gibbs is Dave McNally. That's what they were successful in. Now that they're entrenched veterans, you want to move them into it. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me, unless you're going to turn over the personnel and say, well, Lane's retiring soon. Landon's just not going to be healthy. And then you're going to go in a different direction. And they have a better, obviously, handle on that than I do. Yeah, but that to me,
I do see where you're coming from with this. I mean, and you said this since before they made this change, John, with Sean Mannion and this new offense, that they're not built for this scheme. And now that they're switching it, you're seeing that you're not seeing it yet, but we're speculating, and in some areas not speculating, that they don't have the personnel that lines up with this. I mean, you could even make an argument, John, they don't have the receivers to play this. They don't have the running back to play it. We don't even have to get to the quarterback. Is Saquon Barkley built for a West Coast spread offense? I mean, I was reading this resource.
He's not the most patient runner, which I pointed out. You need patience.
I was reading this thing over the weekend. It's like this by Mark Lawrence, Football 101 on the West Coast offense. And I'm reading this website he's got about it. It's really good, very, very thorough, very, very football-y type of, write-up. And I'm reading him write about what the running back's role is in the offense. And I'm like, I don't know if Saquon Barkley does that well.
Well, he doesn't. When it comes to the passing game, he doesn't. I mean, but
passing, I mean, you need to pass protect. You need to stretch the field wide, like you always say, stretch wide on the run game and then get back upfield, patient, wait for the hole to open. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't want to put a limit on what the players can do, but it does seemingly seem like not the right fit of an offense for the personnel as it is right now.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's got nothing to do with the coaches. I don't get it. I don't get you. You built this team in a certain way, and I get it. If you're signaling, hey, this is a team on the descent, like I've been sort of intimating, but nobody agrees with me from a personnel standpoint on the offensive side of the football. And you're signaling we're gonna we're going to revamp this entire offense over the next couple years and bring in what essentially they've done defensively, which Howie gave some hints about that after the season. We're going to have to start drafting heavy on offense like we've been doing on. So that indicates they're going to bring in younger players,
Right.
and they're going to start drafting for this particular scheme. I don't like the West Coast. It's not the West Coast scheme. It's not Bill Walls. So I don't like, it's not, but it's a lot different than what the Eagles were.
Well, what is it then? Is it a hybrid? Like, let's say the Eagles
It's a
are
hybrid,
here,
yeah,
and the West Coast is here. Are they like here?
It's a hybrid.
Okay,
It's a Shanahan Kubiak scheme,
right. Gotcha.
More than that. Which
The West Coast is kind of the full version of the full, doing that type of offense, spread offense.
Well, no, Bill, it was a lot more complicated, and again, the game has changed so much. You really can't run it to the level that Bill Walsh would run it, because you just don't have the time to practice and all that stuff that we always talk about. It's been legislated out of the game. So you got to dumb it down to a certain extent. I would say it's dumbed down from that is how I would describe it. And McVay calls it the illusion of complexity. So that's where in the passing game, that's where the eye candy comes into it, the motion, the formational adjustments, releasing Puka Nacua through the B gap inside at times, things like that. It's about making the defense use their eyes and not blow coverages and stay disciplined and all that kind of stuff. But from and that's the passing game, which I'm sure we'll discuss multiple times during the offseason. But for the running game, for this impact, it's similar in that, but really, if you go, the crux of it was Denver and the Terrell Davis and Alex Gibbs and the joke that Denver could draft anybody and they'd get 1,000 yards. They had a ton of success,
right?
So everybody copied it, and that's another thing I don't like. I don't like copiers. I don't like
John,
it.
real quick though. So in theory, the offensive line coach fits what they're trying to do. But
Yes.
we don't really know that the players fit what they're trying to do, or at least speculation based on what we've seen would be that it's not really the kind of players, offensive linemen that we do have in Philly. We do have, I love the word we used the other day, mauler, like Landon Dickerson as a mauler. If he's not going to be able to be a mauler anymore, then what type of O lineman will he be?
Yeah, well, if you're going to look at them and say who's the least fit for this scheme, I would say Landon. Number one. And that's even before you get to the injuries, because he's just a big physical guy. And you're telling them to run out. Basically, the whole idea is that the wide zone is you kick off the ball and just immediately hit the angle, whether you're going left or right. So you're reach blocking for the football film there. Everybody's reach blocking. Does that sound like that? Sounds like Kelsey. Doesn't sound like Landon. So, and then Lane Johnson again is no doubt about it, Hall of Famer in my mind. He's been doing it one way for how many years, and now you're going to say at this age, hey Lane, we're going to do it different. And even Jordan, who Jeff Stoutland built from literal scratch, for lack of a better term. Never played a down of organized football before Jeff Stoutland got his hands on.
Couldn't buckle a helmet up. I'll say that's scratch.
Yeah. And now you're going to, hey, Jordan, we're going to do it differently. It just doesn't make sense. And the only thing it comes down to is that your thought, some people might say, well, these guys are so good, they can do anything. And maybe that's true. But boy, I don't like it. And that's a league-wide problem. It's not just the Eagles. It's a league-wide problem. It's like, and that's why I brought up Tampa Bay blowing out 12 coaches. What are the odds that Todd Bowles survives that? Who's a good coach, not a great coach, but what now he's got to bring in 12 new people. and go win a division and go compete. But this whole industry is backward in so many ways. So many ways. It's like, well, their shelf life is over. I mean, what are the odds? You know, nobody cares about Jason Michael. I get it. What are the odds that Ryan Mahaffey's a better tight ends coach than Jason Michael? Bizarre to me. Bizarre.
Interesting stuff here. Chris Kuper has landed as the new Eagles offensive line coach, which means they've kind of split the roles, guys, of Jeff Stoutland. I'm sure you've noticed this. So kind of a split role now in Stoutland. Mahaffey's going to be the tight ends coach and the run game coordinator. That's Ryan Mahaffey, 38-year-old hire out of Green Bay. And then you have Chris Kuper now, who will be the offensive line coach. And I think it ends there. He'll be the O-line coach. That's it. John, seems to me, and I don't want to be too hard on Chris Kuper this morning, but I will be a little hard on him. Seems to me like a downgrade. I mean, I think you're going to downgrade from anybody with Jeff Stoutland, but this seems like a clear he doesn't really have that much success.
Well, from a resume standpoint, you're right. It's a downgrade. But again, I think you're looking at it wrong, and I think most people are looking at it wrong. Like, they're changing philosophies, and this guy has experience in the philosophy, and the other guy doesn't want to run the philosophy.
Just experience, though, not necessarily success.
No, but again, I think that has more to do with the personnel.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just come hell or high water. I mean, I guess the positive is to everyone who wants change, you're getting change, man.
Oh, we're getting change to the next degree, John. We're getting big change here.
So what are the odds the next 5 years are as successful as the last 5 years? I don't like those odds.
No, I don't either, really. Good stuff there, John. Good opening segment here on Chris Kuper. All right, the O-line coach has officially been replaced. Jeff Stoutland is out, and we will see what ends up happening with Jeff Stoutland, if he coaches somewhere else this year or if he stays on the Eagles staff. I don't think he would do that, John. Have you heard anything more about that?
He's definitely not staying here. No.
You know how they release it, though. Oh, well, he's been given an option. You know what I mean? He can stay in Philly. He's just not going to be. They do the same thing with Petula. They don't fire these guys. I don't.
Well, he could definitely stay in Philly if he wants. His wife loves it here, so I know that. It's one of the reasons he stayed as long as he has. But, and he look. Hopefully, yeah. There's already talk that he might go to the Jets with Frank Reich. We'll see if that shakes out. If he does want to take a year off, hopefully I think, he's upset more than the team's upset. So I think from that standpoint, hopefully it'll calm down and if he wants to, they'll open the building for him and say, just like Kelsey or anybody can stop by and hang out at a training camp and all that. And if he doesn't want to coach, hopefully they get to that point. Just be a friend of the program, so to speak. I think that's possible. But that's, to me, the bigger isn't about the people. It's about why the Eagles are doing what they're doing.
They believe, I guess, it's the best way forward. We will find out if they are right about that. The offense has been ugly, and I think we've all talked about it ad nauseum. So there we are getting as
the running game hasn't typically. This year it was. So I mean, and it
wasn't as bad as we thought it was this year. I know it wasn't like obviously historic like the year prior, but weren't they a top 10 running team, like by most metrics?
Well, they were better than people thought they were. And they got, by the way, ironically, they got better when Nick stepped in and ordered the changes. They got better. Obviously, still not as up to, but over the long haul, they've been very successful in the running game. So to me, this part of it's different. Now, to be fair to them, you can't just say, "Oh, well, we'll stick with our same running game and we want to run, Shanahan, McVay." That's part of it. You set up. You don't set up what they want to do passing without doing what they do running, and vice versa. So you can't just piecemeal it. So obviously, the passing game is deemed more important. And it was ugly, and that is ugly, and it has been ugly for a long time. So this is sort of the unintended consequence of that.
We will find out how it goes. John, if I ask you to do this might be hard to do, I guess, this early in the offseason, but do you have an idea of what you think a ceiling and a floor would be for this new Eagles offense? I mean, I know we talk about the unknown and will they be able – do they have the personnel to run it? Do they have the quarterback to run it? Do they have all these different things to run it? What's the ceiling on this thing? Could they explode and become the greatest show on turf part two? I'm exaggerating. I'm embellishing, obviously.
Well, definitely not.
No, I'm just saying, what is, in your eyes, what is the ceiling and the floor if you have it right now? And I understand this can change based on personnel changes that happen in the ensuing months.
Yeah, the ceiling is, I think you've seen the ceiling is like, a 2022 level of production. That's probably the ceiling. Different style, but that's the ceiling. And then the floor is probably much lower than it typically has been with this team over this stretch, because there's a lot of moving parts here that could go drastically wrong. So I think the floor is, there's an opportunity to take the elevator down to the basement. And I think the ceiling is still pretty high if everybody comes back and everybody's healthy, and you still have a lot of good players. So I still think the ceiling is high, but the floor is much lower than it has typically been with what's going on.
Going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I want to thank everybody for being here today. Good segment one. Chris Kuper is in. All right, as Eagles offensive line coach.